Hey folks, thought I'd make a bedside computer update video because a few things have changed since I last made the video about putting Linux Mint 17 on this computer. That's the first thing that's changed. I've gone back to Windows 7 on this particular machine. I just got too sick of little quirks and annoyances that Linux gave me on this particular computer. The way I use this computer is very Flash and Shockwave central. Shockwave Flash files, and some of that got in the way. For example, a few of my favorite Flash games and movies are distributed in .exe files that are meant to run in the standalone Flash player on a Windows computer. Now, I'm sure you could get that to run on Linux with Wine and some other stuff like that, but that's such a hack job, and I don't like doing that if I don't have to. Because if I just keep doing that, then Linux will get to the point where I'm just using it to run Windows applications, and then, why not just use Windows at that point? So, yeah, that's one of the reasons. The other reason is that the file manager in Mint 17 annoyed me too much. Now, sure, I could have gone to another desktop environment and used, like, Dolphin on KDE or something, and that might have fixed the problem, but I'm not a huge fan of KDE and Dolphin in general. Sure, it's nice stuff, but it's just not my cup of tea. So, my problem with the file manager in Mint 17 is that when I would navigate to, let's say, my downloads folder, and what I usually do is I organize my files by type so I can find them easily, like .mp4s or .swf files, and I would, keep them in that order so I could find them. And what would happen is the file manager would forget that I'd put them in that order constantly. And I put up with that for a while, and I just got too annoyed with it. Way too annoyed with it. And Mint 17 has my favorite file manager on Linux, and it still has problems that I just don't like. I didn't really look into fixing that because I shouldn't have to fix that. That's something that should just kind of work, and it should remember how you set things instead of forgetting it constantly, like it has the memory of a goldfish or something. So, the gist of it is that just too many little things and little quirks and annoyances in Linux it annoyed me to the point where it was just annoying, and I wanted to go back to Windows because my workflow under Windows on this computer is perfect. I don't have any issues, any annoyances, nothing. It's all fluid and works for me on this particular machine. And that's the same case with my secondary and main computers. My workflow just works perfectly on Windows, and that I don't want to change that. It works great. And Windows Explorer is an excellent file manager, one that actually remembers how I organize the files every time I go to that directory. Thank you very much. So, there you go. I've gone back to Windows 7 on this computer for those reasons. I just got too annoyed with the way Linux was behaving on this machine and how much I had to tweak it to make it fit my needs, I shouldn't have to tweak something that much for it to fit my workflow. On Windows, all I do is install it, and I don't really have to do anything else to it. The only thing I've done is change the picture that's there on the login screen. That's really it. I install it, I install the drivers, install my applications, done. I don't have to tweak it or do anything else. It's just plain easy, and that's why I've switched back. The other reason I switched from Linux is this speaker here. You see this GigaWare speaker I have, this USB speaker? Well, getting loudness equalization, or dynamic range compression, which I prefer next to my bed so that all videos and things that I watch are the same volume. On Linux, you have to put in a lot of effort to get that. And the effort is just like ridiculous, beyond necessary, just to get compression out of your speaker. That you just shouldn't have to put that much effort into it. It's ridiculous. So, and that's compared to Windows, where you go into the sound properties and you check a box, and that's it. Done. Whereas in Linux, you have to fool around with stuff in the terminal, and that's just much more of a hassle than it should be just to get the sound that I want out of a computer. When on Windows, I could just check a box and be done with it. It's just so much easier. And that's the overall takeaway. It's just a lot easier on this particular setup to use Windows. So that's what I've gone with. Now that I'm done ranting about Linux, sorry about that. Get off my soapbox for a minute. I also put this Cherry ML switch keyboard here, which I've really enjoyed using on this computer. It's been so much better than that really cheap Chinese keyboard I used that I bought from Geeks.com years ago for $5. So it's really been quite an improvement. So one thing I also decided to do was to take the optical drive out of this computer, just because I never use it. The only time I really ever use the optical drive in this computer is to install drivers and Windows, and that's really been it. So I can do all that with USB. So I just don't see the point in having an optical drive in here, because I'm not using this computer for any vintage use of any sort. So, yeah. So, no optical drive in here anymore. Those are the changes I've made to the bedside computer. I've gone back to Windows 7, and I've put the Cherry ML switch keyboard there. So, good stuff. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys, and have a good one, everybody. Ciao.